This should be the turning point against Islamist extremism.
I had serious meetings yesterday with the police on the issues and threats to politicians, threats heading to an election. And I do not want anything to happen again. So yes, I will apologise. I always will when I make a mistake.
That is an open admission that the threat of terrorism is now actually impacting our democracy. I'm actually quite offended by what Lindsay Hoyle said. He said that he's looking after the safety of members of the House of Commons. They are supposed to be looking after our safety, and they haven't. Why have we got these bollards everywhere by the pavement on busy pedestrian hotspots? Is it for careless Mormon drivers? Why are we being told to look over our shoulders at Christmas markets? Is it for those pesky Jehovah's Witnesses, isn't it? Do you remember that time when an autistic child scuffed a copy of the Bible and his mother had to go to the local church with 2 police officers to beg for forgiveness from a load of enraged Anglicans? No. 7-7, Borough Market, the Manchester Arena bombing, Fishmongers Hall, Westminster Bridge. We've had to live with this while our politicians banged on about being kind and inclusive and calling anyone who disagreed with them far right. We have been at the coalface, and the Jewish community is the canary in the coal mine. And that canary is currently gasping for air and desperately trying to tell us that things are dangerously out of control. This is what former Home Secretary Suella Braverman has written in The Telegraph tonight. This has just landed. This is no longer the great country I knew. Islamists are bullying Britain into submission. This isn't just about my colleagues in Parliament. Our values and freedoms are under attack in all walks of life. Well, finally, the penny is starting to drop among other parliamentarians as well. Plus, an investigation into Prevent, our terror watchdog, has revealed what even Stevie Wonder can see. We have not dealt with Islamist extremism. We are not doing enough to deal with it now. We have focused too heavily on the far right, as bad as that is, and I want to make that very clear before anybody gets on my back over this. Far-right extremism is terrible and also needs to be stamped out. MI5 data shows that 75% of its caseload was focused on Islamist threats, yet the latest figures for referrals to the Prevent programme showed just 11% related to Islamist terrorism. How can that be? Oh, yes. William Shawcross, who conducted the review into Prevent, revealed that the fear of being called Islamophobic has led up to this. Well, yesterday, an anti-Semitic slogan was physically beamed onto Big Ben, while the leader of the House of Commons drove a coach and horses through our democratic system to appease a load of radicals who'd been threatening violence and death upon our elected officials. Wake up. I would take Lindsay Hoyle more seriously if he'd have properly called out Islamist extremism when his own colleague was slaughtered by a jihadi. I would take him more seriously if he'd called out Islamism when one of his colleagues quit over death threats recently. Now, Labour, in my view, threw their arms around people with a radical ideology, who have now turned against them, a lot of them. And now they're running scared. Well, now you know how it feels, don't you? There is a tactic being used on the doorstep at the moment by radicals as they go around looking to drum up votes in some densely populated Muslim areas, and I think this is a shameful tactic. They try to convince ordinary, well-meaning members of the Muslim community, who really aren't radical at all, to take a more hardline approach by saying, how are you going to answer on the Judgment Day? Well, I would like to say to our MPs, how are you going to look your grandchildren in the eye and explain to them that you allowed a problem into Britain, you allowed it to fester, you allowed it to take over, and that you were time and time again too afraid to speak up about it? It's cowards. A Home Office spokesperson has said, we have made significant progress to deliver a strengthened Prevent, which places tackling terrorist ideologies at its core. The government agrees extreme Islamist ideology presents the greatest threat to the UK and has moved swiftly to update Prevent duty guidance and training to make that clear.